Happy holidays and welcome to another episode of the Brief Nerdity podcast. I am your host. My name is Ryan. Joining me once again is my good friend Trent.
Oh ho,
And my other
ho.
good friend and wonderful co-host TJ.
Wow, way to cut me off, jerk.
I didn't know what
He
to
only
do.
got-
I got scared.
He only got to say ho ho. He didn't even get to say the third ho.
Well, there's only two hoes allowed on this podcast.
It was going to be comedic because I was going to be like, ho ho, ho.
We've only got time for 2 out of the 3 hoes.
Two hoes. We're a 2-ho podcast.
You guys like ho hos?
And I think we have our title already.
What do you guys prefer, a good ho ho or a good ding dong?
Sorry.
I'm a Swiss cake roll kind of guy myself.
I'm a forever,
Ooh,
I'm a forever 12-year-old, so I have a hard time with this question.
what came first, the Swiss cake roll or the ho ho?
I'd imagine the ho-ho.
I like the
I don't think it's possible to find that out.
I like the oatmeal cookies that were featured prominently in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Ah, those were good.
These things are delicious.
All right, well, thank you everyone for listening. That was our Christmas episode. We'll be back next year.
He lies.
The ho-hos were introduced in 1989.
That's why you were so quiet. We
I
were
was saying, why is
What?
Ryan not saying anything?
I don't know what you're talking about. Oh yeah, Swiss cake rolls first. They're like 1890s.
Holy crap! Yeah, only got to beat by like 100 years, Ryan.
I doth dub this the Swiss cake roll.
I think that we might have gotten past Duff by the 1890s.
Oh,
Well, let me make sure. These pictures look generic. I need to make sure it's the official Swiss cake roll.
and he
Anyway.
wrote that document with a feather, with a quill.
Yeah, it's like ink quill.
I'm not gonna spend more time researching this, but I like Swiss cake rolls better, so they win no matter what.
So let's should we get to our round robin then?
Sure. What's your favorite Swiss cake roll? Now, our round robin this week is. Go ahead and introduce it, TJ.
Sure. So our round robin is favorite or memorable fast food kids meal toy. So if there's any that really stand out to you, or one that you really liked, what was it and why?
I could go first if you guys don't
Go
mind.
for it.
I'll give 1.5 answers. My first answer being I really, really wanted the Mario ones when they did that. I think for either Mario Brothers 2 or 3 back in the day.
Yep.
But I actually did not live anywhere near a McDonald's at that time. So I just had to watch the commercials taunting me
Oh man.
at all times. As weird as that sounds, especially nowadays, I didn't live near a McDonald's. Like the closest McDonald's was like an hour away. And so,
Yeah, it's like now you can't throw a stone and not hit a McDonald's.
yeah, well, I lived out in Podunk, middle of nowhere at that time, so I wanted that. But I would say my real actual answer, and I collected them all, were the Power Ranger movie-based toys.
Ooh, is that where it was like the figurine and then it came with their Zord that they could sit in?
Yeah, I think the figurines were the actual toys, but the Zords were like an extra $2 or $3 just to buy the Zord, and you could just straight up buy them, kind of like when McDonald's let you buy either special mugs or even VHS tapes for some reason. Yeah, Zords were a couple bucks extra, but I had no problem spending like $10, $15 as a kid to get all of them. And then
Oh man, yeah, that was cool. They didn't do anything. You couldn't form the Megazord with them or anything, but they were
just
still
kind of
awesome.
a hollow piece of plastic with a little slot to put the Power Ranger in, but I still loved them.
Yeah, wow, I forgot about those. Those were good.
Yeah.
What about you, Trent?
So the one that I remember the most was, and I had this thing forever until the stickers of it even fell off. Back in the 90s when they did the special editions for Star Wars re-released, Taco Bell had a slew of toys that you could get. And it was like this cube thing that folded into different shaped rectangular shapes that the different ways you unfolded it showed different pictures of the Star Wars posters and stuff. And it was really cool.
Wait, which movies did you say that came out for the prequels, like Episode 1?
No, it was the original trilogy special edition stuff in the 90s.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it was awesome.
Yeah, because I remember Taco Bell for Episode 1, it was Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, And I think one other place had like the exclusive like cups. Remember those cups that like the big plastic cups and they had the giant character on top?
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and then like I think there were 12 and like each place had 4 different ones, like exclusive ones. But yeah, I forgot they did stuff for the special editions though.
Yeah, I remember Pizza Hut did something for special edition. I got a Star Wars basketball from Pizza Hut during the 97 special edition re-release. I was like, all right, random, but cool. It's a basketball with Star Wars on it.
And you dunked it.
Yeah.
And never saw it again.
I also pretty much collected everything from Taco Bell during episode 1. Like I got all 4 of the special edition posters that like went together to combine like a super large poster.
Did you get that pod racer where you slam down on that like accordion looking thing?
I don't remember that one. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, it was like the little plastic pod racer, and you slam down on the thing full of air, and it would shoot the pod racer.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Half.
Yeah, those are cool.
I remember I got some Star Wars Pogs back in the day.
Pogs.
Did you actually play Pogs, or did you just collect them?
I did play. I was ruthless.
Yeah, see,
my brother. I mean, we didn't always follow the rules because I had so many that I liked that I would not like. Either I wouldn't play with them if we were playing by real rules, or we wouldn't like do the thing where you steal each other's.
Mm-hmm.
But I did. I was ruthless.
You're a mean.
I was a weird gambler kid. Like I mean, not really gambler, but I love the thrill of like, I could lose any of my pogs, or I'm gonna effing steal all your pogs, kind of thing.
Dumb down, see, you take all your pogs, see.
Like same thing with like the Pokemon trading card game. Like I'm sure if you play it, like you get like 6 prize cards. Like whenever you kill a Pokemon, on the other side you get to draw like one of your prizes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I played with friends to where like you put 6 random cards down, but you pull from the other person's pile. So there's a chance you could, lose a rare card or gain a rare card or just gain crappy energy cards. Yeah, it just added a layer of like, ooh. Yep.
I picture little Ryan wearing one of those like clear green visors and smoking a cigar while he played Pogs.
Now I had like the best slammers ever.
They were slamming.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. All right, well, I would have to say, do you guys remember it was the McDonald's? I posted this on Facebook a while ago when I found them, but at an antique store I found the Transformers, but they weren't like Transformers, but they were the McDonald's food, and you could like turn them into dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, so I found a complete set at an antique store, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to get all these. They were only like $1 each or whatever, but they had the chicken nugget one, the 6-piece chicken nugget box, and it turned into like a plesiosaurus, I think.
Yeah.
But I love those things. And I remember those coming out, and I'm like, oh, it's cool. And I noticed, like, I left them out at my house, and whenever I've had people come over, they are immediately drawn to them. And then just as we're hanging out and stuff, they're constantly like transforming them and putting them back. So it's a nice little coffee table toy if you ever come across
really
them.
Awesome. I had the French fry one, but that was the only one I had, I think.
But what brought this up, a buddy of mine on Twitter, he found in his basement 3 of the 101 Dalmatians toys. And he was like, does anyone remember these? Like, I think they're from McDonald's. And I looked because I remember, do you guys remember when they had that big 101 Dalmatians, like Happy Meal, like promotional thing? I don't know.
Not really.
I don't know if it was when the live action movie came out or what, but I had to look it up to confirm it. They had 101 different toys that you could get, and they were all in blind bags. But they have a complete set, 101 unique 101 Dalmatians toys.
The earliest of microtransactions and loot boxes.
Yeah, exactly. Because like back in the day, for any younger listeners, we didn't really have like blind boxes and stuff. And now they're so common. I mean, they're everywhere. Everyone has blind boxes. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to think that McDonald's was like, let's make 101 different toys that people can collect. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder how hard it would be to collect it like back then, because I mean there wasn't really internet, so you couldn't just like, oh, like I got this one, they want to trade with me, or sell it on eBay or something like that. Buy the ones you need. Just imagine trying to go to McDonald's or different McDonald's to randomly get all 101 different ones. It's insane.
Yeah. And then one other honorable mention that I want to say. Do you guys remember when the live action Inspector Gadget movie came out and they had those toys at
I
McDonald's?
do.
No.
So Trent, they would have every toy was a piece of Inspector Gadget, like his arm, one of his arms, one of his legs, like his head, and it would do something. But then if you got them all, you can make a giant action figure of Inspector Gadget.
That's pretty.
But I always thought it was so weird because like you'd go to McDonald's and you get a toy and you're like, oh, I got an arm. Like, what can I do with this on its own?
I just imagine how morbid it would be to get the head. And then you just go,
Yeah.
Mommy, why is there a severed head in my Happy Meal?
And then you go back, I got another head. Jeez. So,
Yeah, that was one of those movies that, as a kid, I want to see it really, really, really bad. I absolutely loved the original cartoon, and so when the movie was come out, I was just obsessed, and I wanted to see it super bad. My parents were always like, "No, no, no, no." Then finally, they rented it for me when it came on video, and I was like, "Oh, this is bad." Even as a kid, I was like, "This is
I think
bad."
even as a kid, I was like, Matthew Broderick? Like, really? Like Ferris Bueller?
I think
Gadget?
Yeah, I remember being disappointed by the commercials. I think that might be the first example of being let down by a trailer. Where I'm like,
Trent, that's really funny you say that because that might be mine too. I've never thought about that, but that might be the first time I saw a trailer and was like, oh, maybe I don't want to.
That's so funny.
Yeah, well, good talk.
Good round robin.
That was bueno.
All right. Let's shift over to what we playing.
Yes.
Trent, let's start with you.
So lots of stuff here and there, but I've been playing a lot with some of my online gaming friends. Fortnite Battle Royale. Have you guys heard of this game?
Yep.
Is that kind of like their version of PUBG?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It is exactly like PUBG, except you can build structures using the Fortnite building engine.
Does the arena still get like smaller as the game goes on?
Yeah, and it's actually really cool because the game itself, like the main super, like let's say superpower, but like the main one of the main things about the single player is that you're driving back this creepy storm that's creating zombies. And so in the battle royale, the storm is surrounding this island and just keeps like closing in and closing in. So it's kind of cool that it uses something that's already in the game to do it. But yeah, it's super fun. They just announced a whole ton of updates that are coming here soon. And the way that I get a lot of people to play this over PUBG is that it's free, so you can literally, there's no risk to try it out. So.
Oh, cool.
It's super fun.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things.
All right. What about you, Ray?
Oh. Nah.
No, I'll go if you want.
Both at the same time. Go. No, just kidding.
I was looking up Twinkies on Wikipedia. No, I'm just kidding. For me, I play...
Now, Ryan, do you prefer a Twinkie or a Zinger?
Twinkie, all the way.
Okay,
but pre-Hostess bankruptcy, because they changed it when they came back. It's not as good.
I know, it's sad. I hope they make a reference to that in the next Zombieland movie. I mean, they have to, right? He finds one. It's like, no, it's one of the new ones, or something like that.
Yeah. So I played a few games this week, but most one of note is Doom VFR, the HTC Vive version of Doom. It came out. I bought it day one because I love 2016 Doom so much, and being able to play it in VR was something I was really, really looking forward to. I played it for like 20 minutes the day it came out because we had people over to play our Star Wars game, which we need to talk about, Trent. It's not on our list here, but so I played for 20 minutes. I was like, yeah, that was really fun. And then I would go on forums and Reddit, things like that, and people were hating on the game, and I was like, oh, that sucks. I hope it's good. But then I ended up playing it, and I still ended up really, really, really loving it, thankfully. So,
so what does the F stand for?
Is that a real question?
No, it's serious. I'm serious. Because I thought it was Doom VR because virtual reality.
It stands for the mother of all words.
Really?
Yes. Because there's a gun in Doom called the BFG, and it stands for Big Effing Gun.
So it's Doom Virtual Effing Reality.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
Yep.
I'm calling everything VFR from now on.
But no, I really enjoyed the game. It was about 4 hours long or so, I think, which is a good length for a VR title. And I did it in like 2 standings, whatever you call it, in VR. Like it was, I was having so much fun, but like in the final boss area, I like my legs were getting tired because I had been standing and or like shifting my weight around for like 3 hours or so at that point. So I was kind of getting tired and needing to sit down, but I was like, no, I want to finish. But no, it was really, really fun. The way they get the movement in was, I think, perfect for me. And, they didn't really tone down Doom 2016. I know you didn't play it, Trent, but did you play it, TJ?
Yes.
I mean, it's about the same speed. You have an advantage to where you teleport around via VR, and time slows down when you're like choosing a spot to teleport, so you can kind of maneuver around the battlefield that way. But I mean, everything comes at you in just as many numbers and just as quickly. The scariest ones for me are like the big dudes that kind of just like charge at you and like do that jump and then punch the ground kind of move. If you remember, I don't remember exactly what they're called, but just because they would be on you super fast and they were big in VR. Like even me, I'd like be looking up and be like, ah! And see one jumping towards me and quickly teleport away and stuff like that. So I had a lot of fun with it. Some of the problems people had, Bethesda is already starting to address or said that they were going to be addressing it in recent patches. And so it's only going to make the game better, but I loved it as is. So,
see, up until about a few days ago, I thought it was just Doom with virtual reality, but this is a separate story, right? Like, I mean, it still follows the 2016 game, but this is like its own standalone thing, right?
Yep, completely standalone.
Wow.
Well, it's easy to confuse because I think the Skyrim and Fallout VR commercials have shown basically that it's the exact same game in VR.
Yep.
Which I'm so excited to like look down at my wrist and see the Pip-Boy. I'm stoked.
Yeah, I really hope it's good. But yeah, that's great to hear that that Doom's fun.
Yeah, I really liked it.
How much is it?
30, I think 40. 30.
Okay. Do you think that's a fair price for it?
Definitely. VR games tend to be a little bit more expensive for shorter experiences. I think it just comes for the fact that it's kind of new technology, but this is like the very, very first AAA publisher like making a game for VR, a quote unquote full-fledged game. So, and I wanted to support it, and it was great. So
cool.
Nice. So I have a weird question.
Yes.
For stuff like the Vive, do the sensors take your actual height into account when they're like placing the camera in the game?
Yes.
Or are you always the same height?
Yes, if the game is done right. Because it threw me off one time because my height felt about right when I was playing it, but after I beat the game and I sat down on my couch and kind of started going through the menus and like looking at stuff after the credits, and I unlocked some old Doom classic maps to play in VR. So while I was just sitting there on the couch, I opened one up, and then like when I started, I was like 3 feet off the ground from eye level. I was like, ah! So yeah, they do take that into consideration. I know for other games, like social games, like Rec Room, like you literally see that kids are running around because they're 4 feet tall.
That's hilarious.
4 feet tall in the game. So a lot of kids sometimes stand on stools to try to fool people if they're not kids.
So that raises a really interesting question about game design. Like, do you have an advantage if you're like over 6 feet versus like height challenged or something? Like, that's really interesting.
Well, let's take a look back at GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64.
Freaking Odd Job. You'd never kill that guy.
I can definitely see that. And I know Rick and Morty has you play as a clone Morty, and so you're naturally a little bit shorter, but there's just something in the options menu just to make you like normal height, or your normal height in case you don't want to feel weird being closer to the ground than normal. So
yeah, because I could see like if it didn't do it properly based on the room you're in, like you could reach down to grab something and you would hit the floor before you're supposed to, or things like that. That's super interesting to think about.
Or not be able to reach something on a top shelf.
Right. Okay, cool. I was just thinking about that earlier today.
Yeah.
Mainly because at work we have some people who were teased for being super short, and then a couple who were like crazy tall. So I was just thinking about it during work.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
what
what
I
about
get
you?
paid for, folks.
What about you, TJ? What you been playing?
Yeah, so I was debating on which game to talk about, but I'm going to go with Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. So with South Park, Phone Destroyer, and Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, I've been playing more mobile games like
Yes.
in the past like maybe month than I have in like the whole life of having a smartphone. Um, I've been playing both of those games regularly every day, but Animal Crossing, I'm a huge Animal Crossing fan. And yeah, I check in every day. The game updates and changes. There's different stuff you can do about every 3 hours or so. So I find myself checking in about every 3 hours, just updating,
Mhm.
looking to see what new like furniture and stuff they have and doing some of like the challenges and everything. But yeah, it's a really solid port. I mean, it's not the complete Animal Crossing game in a mobile game. It is like a mobile version of it. But there's a lot of like social elements to it. You can go to other people's camps and see how they decorated it and stuff like that. Um, I always talk about Animal Crossing as if you describe it to anyone, it sounds like the worst game ever made. Like it doesn't sound like it's any fun. It's one of those games you really have to play, and you either instantly love it or you instantly hate it. I've never heard anyone say like, "Oh yeah, Animal Crossing, it's okay." They're either like, "No, that is not for me," or "Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed."
That's
So,
like the exact
That's
description
awesome.
I had for Harvest Moon back in the day when I played it.
yep,
I
yep,
remember, I
that's
remember my
perfect.
mom came up to me and was like, "What you playing?" And I was like, "Oh, it's called Harvest Moon." And she's like, "Well, what do you do?" I'm like, "Well, you get up in the morning, you go do your chores, stuff like that." And she's like, "Okay." And, did a mom thing. It was like, "Oh, you should do your normal chores."
Oh, I always hated that line.
Yeah. But
Because my mom would do that for me in The Sims all the time. She's like, if you worked out as much as your Sims worked out, I'm like, thanks, Mom, I know.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fun. It's free. It's a free to play game. There is some stuff going around when people are like, "Man, they're really trying to get money out of you." But I've only spent $1, and just like with South Park Phone Destroyer, I spent $1 because they had a promotional thing where it's like, "Hey, we're launching the game. You can get all this stuff for $1." So I figured, okay, I like it. I'll give them something, but I have not spent more than that, and I'm still yet to hit a wall. I don't feel like it's holding me back at all, or like I'm missing out on some of the gameplay elements and all that because I'm not spending money. If you have patience, then you really don't need to spend any money in it. So, and a couple days ago they launched for the month of December a whole like Christmas theme, so you can collect candy canes to get like Christmas furniture and stuff like that. So, it's a lot of fun.
That's
But
awesome.
I wouldn't recommend it to anyone that doesn't like Animal Crossing. But if you like it, it's definitely worth checking out.
So this is a Nintendo, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is Nintendo.
So you think it's probably their most popular mobile game yet?
I read the numbers that they released from like the game only being out for like 4 or 5 days, and it was something crazy. But yeah, I feel like this will probably be their most popular and most profitable mobile game yet.
Nice. Although I mean, do we count Pokemon Go? Because that I wonder how long it would take
No,
to surpass
yeah,
that.
yeah. Technically, it's not Nintendo. That's more Niantic than Nintendo. But
Okay. They just kind of
yeah, because I
licensed it
mean,
from them.
so if we look at the list so far with or with Nintendo, it was Miitomo, which did okay, but I don't think blew anyone away. And then there was Super Mario Run, which did well, but not crazy
As
well. Then
right.
Fire Emblem, and Fire Emblem I think is still doing very well. They just released like a huge update for it, so they're constantly updating that and adding more stuff. And now Animal Crossing. So yeah, I think Animal Crossing is gonna be the big one for them.
Nice.
The only thing
All
that
right,
I
good for
worry
them.
about is I don't want it to take away from Animal Crossing for Switch. So I really hope they don't focus on this and then, not worry about making one for Switch.
I really don't think they will. They've even said it themselves that they're basically just using their mobile games as commercials for the full-fledged games.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I like it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. My wife plays it all the time too. She doesn't play a lot of games, but she's really invested in this. So I think that's another reason why I play it as much as I do. But yeah, really fun. If you're interested, check it out. It's free.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Super cool.
What you been watching?
Um, yeah, so not really too many TV shows like outside of the norm. I've seen some movies lately, but one movie I thought I'd mention, I recently watched Congo. I haven't seen the movie Congo in years, and I know I used to
Neither.
always watch it as a kid. I knew it was bad then, but I still enjoyed it, so I was really looking forward to watching it now. And it's a really bad movie, but it's a really fun bad movie because it's like a B movie that had a really big budget, and they know it's a B movie, but they try and take it serious whenever they have the opportunity to. But when you have a movie with a gorilla that knows sign language and has a computer that allows it to speak, you can't really get too serious with it.
Yeah.
So it's just so funny to me knowing that this was supposed to be like the next Jurassic Park. Like they really thought they had another huge hit on their hands, and you just can't even compare the two.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened to me. Like I went through a huge Jurassic Park love phase in the mid '90s, and so
Yeah.
my excitement for Congo was also very high. But also, again, my parents didn't let me see it in theaters, and when I saw it on video, and I was like, oh.
Did you guys see the teaser for Jurassic World 2?
Yep.
Yep, I think the full trailer is out Thursday,
Yep.
I believe.
Looks pretty exciting.
I really thought they were going to hold that one for Star Wars. I really thought that's when they're going to debut it, but I guess not.
Yeah, same with Infinity War trailer, but
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll have it next to Star Wars, both of them.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to watch just a fun, silly movie, it's on Amazon Prime. That's where I watched it. So if you have that, you can watch it there. But yeah, I enjoyed it enough to immediately go on eBay and order an action figure of Amy the gorilla. So it'll be arriving any day now.
Oh, that's amazing.
What about you,
Yeah.
Trent?
So I haven't been really watching a lot of new stuff. I mean, I guess I can talk about the CW crossover very briefly, and then I really, really loved it. But Ryan's not caught up yet, and TJ doesn't watch it. So it's the Arrow superhero crossover, which I crazy amounts enjoyed. But the cool thing that I want to talk about is the Google Play Family Share. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So it's a new thing that Google rolled out somewhat recently, anyway. And this is the first I'd heard about it. And you can create a family group and share your movies, books, and there was one other thing that music purchases with people in your family group, and then you can set up permissions as to so it's obviously it's meant for literal families, like so that kids can watch on their devices the things that you've purchased as a family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's super cool. And so you can put items in your library and put them in like family share mode, and while someone else is watching them on a different device, no one else can watch them, I think is how it works.
Oh, okay.
It's like loaned out to that device for the time it's being watched. But so like my really close friends Matt and Petra back in Kansas City were like, hey, I've finally got Petra to agree to watch Star Wars. Does anybody have them that we can borrow? And I'm like, crap, is there any way that because I own them all digitally on Google Play. So I was like, is there any way that I can share it? And so I Googled it and found this new Google search thing. And I was like, oh, awesome. So I added them into my family group. You can have up to like 5 people, I think. And he was able to borrow my Star Wars movies digitally.
Oh, cool.
So him and Petra started watching Rogue One and then 4, and I think they got through 5 yesterday. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really useful instead of just having to give someone your account login.
Right? I was like, yeah, I don't trust you guys that much. My Google account can access like everything. So
Yeah.
This might be a randomly specific question, but does it work for your own privately uploaded music library in Google Play?
That I don't know because I haven't played with anything but the movies yet.
Because you guys know, like I told you before, how I spent many hours going through pretty much every song from every video game I've ever played and downloading them and putting them all on a playlist. So,
yeah. Well, that's one of the big benefits of Google Play over some of the other ones is it does allow you like 15,000 personal uploads or something like that.
Yeah, if not more.
That you can then stream anywhere. So.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Huh, well, that's cool. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the direction we're going in now, being able to lend out digital stuff.
Yeah, I think like Audible does it already with their audiobooks. Like you can send a book to someone that they can like check it out for a little bit if they have an Audible account, stuff like that. I think it's the new. I mean, because it's really convenient to, and like it's one of the big drawbacks right now of digital purchases. Is you're like, oh, sorry, like I own it digitally, but I'm not giving you my password.
I love doing the Steam library share
Yeah,
for
for
game
sure. I think it's awesome.
so much. Are you familiar with it, TJ?
No.
I think it's up to 5 people, maybe 10. I think 5 though. You could just grant anybody access to your entire Steam library.
Oh wow.
They only just can't be playing a game if you're playing any game. So if I'm playing, Half-Life 2, they can't play any of my games, no matter what.
Okay.
So if I'm playing a Steam game through Steam, they can't play it. But it worked out because I have shared with a couple friends, and I was going to buy Resident Evil 5 on day one, but then my friend's like, no, I got it pre-ordered. Just play mine. I was like, oh, all right. So I played his copy, though I'll probably be buying my own copy to get the DLC coming up soon. But
That is pretty cool.
it's just really nice.
All right. What about you?
It's a great way to be like, hey, you should really try Civ 6 and come play like multiplayer or something with me. I'm like, well, I don't even know if I'm gonna like it. Like that's a big investment. I mean, like, here, just borrow it for a few hours and see what you think.
Yeah. And like PUBG, for example, of course it blew up a few months ago, and I hadn't played it yet, but I really wanted drop $30 to play it. It was before the Fortnite one came out, but my friend just got it and was playing it, so I'm like, it just showed up in my library one day, so I'm like, okay, so I downloaded, installed it, played a couple matches, and I was like, all right, that's kind of cool, but not really my thing. So it works out.
Cool.
All right. Well, for me, for what I've been watching, watched a few things, but the one I want to talk about most is Coco, the new Disney Pixar movie that came out recently.
You saw it?
I did.
So I take it you survived the unbearably long Olaf short.
To give it a little credit, it's not that bad. It's a little long, but I mean, I'm an adult, so I could sit through long movies or just more than 2 hours in a movie. I can understand, taking little kids and not knowing what you're getting into beforehand could be annoying, but I knew what I was getting into, and like I said, I'm okay with staying 2 hours in a movie theater. But it wasn't that great. The Frozen short, I mean, it was kind of like, oh, okay.
Well, because normally those Pixar shorts, what's the longest one that's come before this? Maybe like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
At the most?
Yeah.
So
when you add like the pre-show and then like the theater commercials and then the previews and then everything, and it's like you've been in the theater for what, an hour already before the movie starts.
Well, yeah, that's what's funny. Last week my wife and I went to the movies, not to see Coco, to see something else, and there was a lady next to us that was bringing a few of her kids in, and they were getting tickets to Coco, and she was drinking a coffee, and the guy at the register was like, oh, you can't bring that in, and she's like, oh, okay, and I think she had a lot of it left, and he told her, he's like, but don't worry, you have time to finish it. Just so you know, there's a 20-minute movie before, and then there's 21 minutes of previews. So you have plenty of time before the movie starts.
Wow.
Yeah, I checked my clock as soon as the short credits were rolling, and I'm like, yep, this is now 45 minutes after the starting time. But as Trent has learned, much to his ire, well, maybe not ire, but I like to show up to movies 15, 20 minutes late. because I'm so annoyed at I see all the previews I want online anyways, and then I'm so annoyed with just all the commercials now. And so I show up 15, 20 minutes late, and the movie still hasn't started typically. So,
yeah. Well, they did announce starting this Friday they are no longer showing it before the movie.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Should have waited one more week. No,
well, their excuse for it, they said this will allow Coco to get 1 or 2 more show times during the day.
Yeah.
So, but really, it's so many people are. Yeah, really, it's so many people are complaining that we need to remove this from the movie.
Yeah.
I can't recommend Coco enough. I've been one, I think, on the podcast as well as just in real life all the time to just talk about how Pixar just really hasn't done it for me lately. I think with the exception of Inside Out, I thought the last good Pixar movie was Toy Story 3. And I think pretty much everything they've done between has been meh to okay. But Disney animation has really been killing it. But this Pixar movie Coco, even the trailers didn't really do much for me, but I would decide to go see it just based on the reception alone. And yeah, it's one of the best Pixar movies that they've done.
Wow. My buddy saw it, and he said it just feels very different. It's a very different movie, especially compared to the other Pixar movies. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, I don't know what he's kind of meaning with that. I mean, I think they're all different in sort of way. I mean, you're probably going to cry at some point during Coco, and that's pretty normal for Pixar movies. So
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I think one of the biggest praises that I've seen is that, like, in a time that we're really worried about, well, some people are really worried about, like, cultural appropriation and not representing cultures in a respectful way. I've heard that this just completely nails it. Like, it respects the Mexican culture. Like people just love it.
yeah, it totally does, and it takes that and creates a unique story that is something completely original. And so I was thrilled and enjoyed every second, learning more about this world and learning the rules of this world, and then hoping the characters get out of the conundrum that they've gotten themselves into. And then just as it all comes to an end and the message that's delivered at the end, and it's just a beautiful movie. I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah,
Cool.
It's really cool. Already in Mexico, just to kind of show how much they've loved it. I mean, obviously, it very quickly became the #1 animated film ever in that country, but it's actually already knocked off the #1 movie of all time in grossing in Mexico.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which is pretty
Deserves
cool.
every penny. So
I'm definitely gonna go see it. I think it looks awesome.
use those
Yeah,
pass cards.
That's right.
I know. I really want to try and get out and see it, but I know there's a lot of movies coming out in the next couple weeks that I've been waiting for. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I gotta go see Disaster Artist.
Oh yes.
I really
Can't
wanted
wait.
to see it this weekend, but the closest theater is like an hour and a half away that got it for the limited release, and it wasn't AMC,
Yeah.
and so I didn't want to like try to use my movie pass to the movie theater an hour and a half away that was an AMC theater.
Oh, I haven't. I mean, I told you, AMC are the only theaters I have over here, and yeah, they haven't given us any problems with using them.
That's good.
So I think they're kind of past that point.
I was just gonna wait for
So-
the wide release this coming weekend.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, I can't wait.
I'm going to watch The Room with my brother on Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
'Cause
I will definitely be watching it.
Yeah, he hasn't
This
seen it
week.
yet, and I showed him clips from it and showed him. I think it was a Honest Trailers about it recently, and so he's like, "I have to see this movie." So
Well, for anyone listening that hasn't seen it, the full movie is on YouTube right now. I don't know how much longer it's going to be on there, but it says it was uploaded like 3 months ago, and it's still there. So you can watch it there without having to, order the DVD or something. But definitely worth a watch. It is an experience.
you have to be in the right mood for it, and you have to realize like it's a bad movie, and you need to appreciate it for its uniquely badness.
So
But it's a very unique bad movie.
Yeah, like I absolutely love it. I absolutely love the movie. But
so as I mean, obviously you haven't seen The Disaster Artist yet because it's not out
No.
yet. Right?
Yeah, not yet.
Is like, as someone who hasn't seen The Room and is kind of hesitant about seeing it in general, would it be dumb of me to see The Disaster Artist before seeing The Room?
From what
no.
I've heard, they said you could definitely see the Disaster Artist without having seen The Room, but you will appreciate certain parts a lot more if you've seen The Room. But they said the Disaster Artist is not about recreating the famous scenes from The Room. Like, they do that with some of them, but it's way more than just about that movie. It's more about the characters of Tommy and Greg, and it's kind of how they became friends and the journey they went on to actually like make this movie. So,
well, I actually read a Reddit thread that asked this same question. Someone who had seen the movie, he was like, "Absolutely not. It's not really about the movie. It's more about like TJ said, the people making the movie." But he said at the end, he joked and said like they probably did this to make sure that like people realize that like no, this is really what Tommy Wiseau is like. They show clips from the movie side by side with the recreation of this exact same clip with James Franco in it. They show like 6 or 7 scenes or so, or short scenes. Like I don't remember if it's after the credits or during the credits or something like that, but to show like no, this is exactly how the movie was. It's not just because he said they could see like anyone coming in there and like watching the movie and like, what is this? Like, why is this guy acting like this? Is this based on a true story? What? No one acts like that. But yep, yes, he did.
and
So-
what you need to know about The Room is that the main guy, Tommy Wiseau, he he wrote, starred in, directed, and produced, and fully funded this movie. It cost like over $6 million.
Yeah.
And he's a very mysterious person. Like no one knows where he's like really from. No one knows how old he is. No one knows where he gets all this money from. But he just really wants to be an actor, like be a star. But he's a terrible actor. Like he's just awful. So yeah, just knowing that, like watching it, it's fascinating.
I mean, it's bled into popular culture so much that I've seen a number of scenes from it, even though I've never seen the movie. Like I can do the whole like "tear me apart, Lisa" or whatever, like
Yeah.
and all that. I don't know. Maybe I should probably just watch it.
You should.
And if you don't want to watch it raw, watching it with riff tracks is highly, highly entertaining.
Ooh, I bet that would be fun.
So
okay,
I definitely recommend that.
I likes it.
All right, well, let's get on to the main meat of the podcast here 40 minutes later. Let's talk about Nintendo. We are reaching the end of 2017, and so there's a lot of things to talk about Nintendo-wise. But Nintendo had a dang good year this year, so I just kind of wanted to talk about it, just kind of do a year in review for Nintendo and see what we all think about Nintendo and their strategy and the games they released and stuff like that. So yeah, let's just start with that. So I'll start with saying with January, when January 1st, 2017 came along, all we had was that very first trailer they released for the Switch a month or two previous, the one that just showed like that rooftop party and, the guy on a plane, playing Skyrim and stuff like that. And so that's pretty much all we knew. But then we watched it together. If you guys remember, they had that Switch event.
Oh yeah,
did we watch it together? I think we did.
I watched it with you. I know for sure.
Yeah, and we had the Switch event where they showed off that great Breath of the Wild trailer. They showed like the ice inside the Joy-Cons and showed off 1-2 Switch, and then finally revealed Super Mario Odyssey. And from there, it's the rest is history. The Switch launched in March with, of course, Zelda Breath of the Wild and a plethora of good launch titles. And then pretty much...
Which I don't think anyone was expecting that launch date either, March 6th.
Yeah.
No.
Even when they said March, you just assumed, okay, it's going to be the last possible day in March. But yeah, when they said March 6th, I was like, I need to wait less than 2 months for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's seriously only a month and a half way before a brand new console. That's insane.
And I think it's safe to say, we've all been very impressed with the hardware.
Yeah.
All around. Just the operating system is smooth. It was missing a few features at launch, and they're still kind of rolling some of those features out. But it's still a pleasure to maneuver the operating system and go to the store and things like that. A lot less cumbersome than I think the Wii or the Wii U or the DS, 3DS libraries operating systems. It just feels really, really nice. I remember, Trent, you mentioned that the Hulu app is just really, really nice as well.
Yep, it's very well designed. Looks very pretty. The menus are easy to navigate. I haven't watched anything on it yet, but I looked around in the app for a bit.
Nice. And so after March, they pretty much had a brand new release every single month. I think it was Mario Kart in April. Was it ARMS in May? TJ, do you remember?
No. ARMS was June.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember what was in May? I think Mario Kart was... Mario Kart was the very end of April, so May didn't have, a big release, but Mario Kart was, April 28th.
I think Minecraft, though, came out in May.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah, so you had Minecraft in May, and then ARMS in June, and it was Splatoon 2 in July.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Mario Rabbids.
Mario Rabbids in August, yep.
September was Pokemon. Or Pokken.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, what? No.
Yeah, no, Pokken.
I always call it Pokken.
Yeah.
Pokken makes way more sense.
Yeah, and then obviously Mario Odyssey in October.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention all the indies scattered all in there, or not just indies, but re-releases of good games. Like you mentioned, Lego City Undercover several times. Yep. There was Golf Story.
Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, Puyo Puyo Tetris. I mean, there's it's crazy because the Wii U was around for about 3 years, and there are still people now where it's like, should I get a Wii U? And some people think like, oh, I don't know if it's really worth it. That's 3 years to build a strong library. I think the Wii U has a strong enough library to warrant a purchase, but the fact that the Switch has not even been out a full year and there's already more than enough reasons to purchase one, like that's really impressive. The only thing that makes me worry is, will they be able to continue this throughout next year? Or did they kind of like get all the big stuff they were working on out now, and then, will it kind of slow down next year?
I really don't think they'll slow down, but go ahead, Trent.
Yeah, I mean, we know that they have a Metroid title for next year, right?
I don't think they confirmed the year. I'd be really surprised if that came out next year.
That's fair.
Other stuff like Yoshi and the Kirby game that they announced.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's enough, especially with just the number of indie developers. There's a number of games on there that I would not have considered playing, except that they're on the Switch now, also.
Yeah.
And the appeal of the portability of it just is such a game changer for games like Stardew Valley and things like that. Like, it makes me want to buy it again.
Yeah, well, even look at Skyrim. I mean, sales numbers haven't been revealed yet, but when they first announced Skyrim, at first people were like, "Really? Like that an old game? Like, okay, how's that a big deal?" But now, like, that people have really gotten to use the Switch and really realize like how different it is from like a standard console, and the portability, like you were saying, it's huge. Like, now it's a big deal, and they said it's actually a very solid port of the game.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, the more I've been looking at it, I've actually I was like, no, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it for a third time. I'm not. But I've been looking at it lately. I was like, maybe I'll buy it next year sometime. If I get into a gaming slump, or if I go on a trip or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's eating away at me a little bit, but in a good way.
Yeah, and even look at Doom. Like, the fact that they have Doom running on that. I know it's 30 frames, and the textures aren't all extremely crisp and everything, but the people that have played it said it is Doom. Like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know a lot of people would probably crap on Nintendo for this, but I would be 100% on board with them pretty much porting every big Wii U game.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be all for it.
I mean, like, to have Wind Waker HD. I mean, gosh, yes. That was. I mean, that's still one of my favorite games on the Wii U, just because that game it aged beautifully with just almost just a resolution and a few other small graphical updates.
Yeah.
And the other improvements I made to it.
Yeah.
I was telling Trent one day, like, oh man, Super Mario Maker on the Switch. I mean, like, talk about the ultimate portability game. I mean, yeah, it's awesome to have Breath of the Wild and stuff like that and portable, but for me, the ability to pull up my Switch and just play a random Mario level at any given time, like,
yeah,
in Mario Maker, I'd be totally down for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm considering buying a Wii U just to get Wind Waker HD and the Twilight Princess remake, because I can play them for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is probably one of the best years Nintendo has had, for sure, in a long time, but maybe forever. And since they've been making consoles.
Yeah.
And I really hope the momentum just keeps going.
Do we know the numbers compared to when the Wii came out? Like, how the console sales have compared?
It's like by far outpacing Wii U sales. And they're sure. I think they're predicting that. Oh, with Wii, you said, I'm sorry. Because I think they said they're already on track. If they keep this up, they're going to sell more Switches in the first year than Wii U sold in all 3 years that it was out. So, but Wii, I'm not sure.
Because I remember, like, it was such a craze, and like everybody wanted one, and everybody was out. But I don't remember if that was like scarcity, or if it's straight up sales as well.
Both, I would say.
Yeah, I think it was both. Yeah.
Because I remember even the Christmas after the Wii, or a year after the Wii came out, it was still hard to find one.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really glad everything's working out for them. So
yeah, and like just thinking of some of the other games they could make in the meantime, like not just with ports, but I mean, like Smash Brothers would be a really easy game to bring over and update, maybe add some new characters and maps or something to the Wii U one.
My dream version of that port would be also include the 3DS levels, because the 3DS had a ton of exclusive levels too. Like, recreate those for Switch and just have like the ultimate version of those two Smash Brothers games like in one, and then obviously add a couple characters and stuff.
And add all the DLC, just like Mario Kart did.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. I'd be really surprised if they didn't do that. I don't know if they would, bring over all the 3DS levels too, but I'd be shocked if they didn't port that game over to Switch.
Yeah. I would buy a lot of Wii U ports for the Switch, and I already have with Mario Kart, but I would buy so many more.
Yeah, and I mean, you would hear stories all year like this game gets released on Switch and it already sold more on Switch than it did on every other platform combined. Like
Right.
a lot of the indie games and stuff. So the demand is there. Like people want it.
Yep.
So just good on Nintendo. They've made a lot of people happy, including me, this year.
Yeah.
So.
Same.
And supposedly they said that Zelda DLC is still on track to release this year, so they don't have that much time left. But I think there's like a Zelda live stream or something this week that like
Yeah, I hadn't heard
quietly
anything
got
about that.
announced. Yeah, they didn't say what it's going to consist of, but I'd be surprised if they didn't show that DLC off. So
That's awesome.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it got me to break my console, not like lack of purchasing a console for how long has it been?
You had a 360.
Right, but I bought that in what, 2008, 2009?
True.
So been almost a decade since I bought a console, and I do not have any buyer's remorse, and I'm like super PC gamer guy. So like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, good job, Nintendo. Keep
Good
it up.
job, Nintendo. I love you.
Same here.
All right, let's go on to our next topic. TJ, was this yours?
Yes, this was mine. So I wanted to see what you guys thought about this. So I don't know if you guys have seen lately in the news, but the movie Lady Bird that's been out for a little while now, like a smaller indie release, but getting a lot of buzz. It's officially beaten out Toy Story 2 and is now the highest rated movie of all time on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it had like 163 reviews at 100%.
Wow.
So just think about that for a second. Like, no movie since Toy Story 2 has had a perfect score with that many reviews until now. And it's this small indie film that just kind of came out of nowhere, and now that has like the highest score. Now it has that title. So I'm assuming that neither of you have seen it, because you probably would have said that you did by now. But I did see it, and well, I don't think it's a bad movie, like by any means. I think it is very good. It's just kind of like, it kind of made me think about Rotten Tomatoes in general and how kind of broken the system is. Because I am just shocked that with the horrible scores that some of these critics give, like movies that other people, really enjoy, that not one of these critics said that they thought this movie was bad, or they thought it wasn't, like, they wouldn't consider it like fresh. Because do you guys know, like, how does Rotten Tomatoes work? Like, how do they determine if a movie is fresh or
It's
whatever
just like,
the other term they use?
70% or something or higher.
Yeah, or like if a movie is like a C plus or higher, like it's considered fresh. I don't know.
I'm not sure how they
something
do
like
the
that.
individual ratings, because I know they port them in from other places, but
Well, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because, like, Rotten Tomatoes is not just some random website that some people use. Like, you see Rotten Tomatoes scores plastered everywhere. Like, even official, like, movie posters and like movie covers and stuff will have the Rotten Tomatoes scores. Like, I know I use that Movies Anywhere and like Vudu. You can actually organize your movies based on the Rotten Tomatoes scores.
wow.
So they're movies you own. You can order them into what by the Rotten Tomatoes ratings, which that doesn't make sense, because why would you own any of these movies if you didn't like them? Like, why do you need to see the scores? But I wanted to see what you guys thought about Rotten Tomatoes in general, because this movie, once again, is not a bad movie, but I really don't understand why it's getting this much hype, and I definitely don't think that it deserves this title. And I think when people see the title of the highest reviewed movie ever, Rotten Tomatoes, it's very misleading. So I don't know what you guys think of Rotten Tomatoes in general.
It's funny you mentioned this, because we didn't provoke you at all, but Trent and I actually had a conversation about this just right before Justice League came out, when they like revealed the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Oh, okay.
So it's funny you should mention it. I think it's a double-edged sword. So pretty much if like I want to see a movie, I'm going to see a movie regardless.
Mhm.
But I will check out reviews or just reception in general to see if if it's a movie I'm going to see on day one, if it's a movie I'm going to see on $5 Tuesdays, back when I paid for movies, or if it was going to wait till it just comes on digital and Redbox it.
Sorry, it just sounds like such a an elitist thing to say almost. I know you totally didn't mean it that way, but it's like back when I paid for movies.
Well, it's funny. I found myself not wanting to use my movie pass or go to see movies on Tuesday. I'm like, no, then my movie pass will only save me $5. I'm going to see it on a Saturday night. They come pay full price.
That's funny.
But so I think Rotten Tomatoes has a place, but people have to remember that the Rotten Tomato percentage is not like a review score in of itself. Like if something gets a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, it doesn't mean the movie is a 7 out of 10. That means that 70% of people liked the movie. And so with Lady Bird, that's just the fact that, you said it was a good movie, just not an amazing movie. So maybe 100% of every person who saw that movie thought of it like you did, TJ.
Yeah.
That's a good movie, but, it's not going to be my movie of the year. And so they all gave it a fresh score. And so it therefore has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So.
But I couldn't believe it because it's not even like Rotten Tomatoes gathers all these scores at once. Like everyone releases their review at the same time, and then they compile it all at the same time in Rotten Tomatoes, and boom, that's the score. These reviews come in over time, so a movie can start off at 100% or 0%, and then as time goes on, it'll get different reviews that'll change that score. So I just can't believe that no critic up to this point has even been like, oh, you know what? I'm going to be the first one to say that this movie's terrible. Or I'm going to be the first one to give this a non-fresh score, because then everyone's going to look at my review.
That's what the guy did for Toy Story 3. Because I think Toy Story 3 was tracking at 100% for ages, and people were like, it's going to pass Toy Story 2. But then just one guy went and gave it a rotten rating.
Oh, wow. So see, that right there even shows how broken the system is.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the popularity of a movie or the franchise can play a part also. Like there's a guy, I think was it Ryan, were you telling me that he will always, for every superhero movie, no matter what, he gives it a bad review?
It was that same guy, but it was for every Pixar movie.
Okay, there you go.
Every Disney movie, he gives a rotten score on.
So I mean, I wonder if just all these reviewers probably saw this movie, put their review in the can, and then just didn't think about it again because they're like, oh, it's an indie film, it's not going to create that much buzz.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. For something like Toy Story 3 releasing, that's obviously getting a lot of buzz, but I hadn't even heard of this movie before, all the 100% Rotten Tomato things coming out, and so I'm sure these critics did, before they saw it, but I'm sure they all saw it relatively in a vacuum and didn't really pay attention to all the reviews out there.
Yeah, and it is interesting that we. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just look now, and what's crazy is it still has 100%.
Yeah.
Meaning that the typical jerk that would do this to ruin the score still hasn't done this for this movie.
Yeah, it is a funny thing to think about, how much we just expect there to be this, I don't know, almost hipster counter backlash to anything that gets popular.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get a bunch of clicks for this bad review of this thing that everybody loves because I'm I'm hurt or whatever.
Yeah, it's just important to remember, for anybody to that Rotten Tomatoes isn't the end all be all. You could use it as a guide, but it served me well, it served me wrong before. Like I mentioned on an earlier podcast, TJ, you reach out to me again, but The Witch, it had a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. I went and saw it, and it was one of the worst movies I'd seen in theaters in ages.
Yep.
I wanted to walk out, but I was fighting do I just walk out of this movie right now? Do I do that, or do I sit here and hope it gets good or something like that? But no, it was terrible the entire time. But yeah, I want to say here, I'll look it up. But then at the same time, I really ended up enjoying Justice League. The internet is really crapping on it right now, and the Rotten Tomatoes score isn't super great on it, but I genuinely really liked it. So
yeah, but it's it's an interesting thing, just thinking about the math of it. You could have every review been it was okay, I guess, and that's a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
or
no. If that was the case, if everyone said, "Oh yeah, it was okay,"
well,
that would be 100%.
right. If everyone did, yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be a great score. And it's just it's a weakness of the math that they use and the way that they formulate their score. Um, and I think I think we're like too like socialized by like education scores and stuff to be like, oh, it's a 90%. Like 9 out of 10 people thought this was awesome. Like, or I mean, even
yeah,
if they even understand that, or if they was like, oh, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 90%.
yeah. But I
Uh,
also wonder how many people actually even look at the scores at this point, or just look to see if it has a tomato or a splat next to it.
yeah,
Like that's how dumbed down like these movie reviews are nowadays, where you could just look at an icon. You could basically look at an emoji,
yeah.
and that
Well,
will decide if you're going to see the movie or not.
and like I feel like sometimes I'm one of the only people who looks at the one to the right where it's like how many viewers liked it, because that
Oh
can
yeah,
be hugely different. And like
yeah,
a lot of what I call popcorn movies, that are just like fun, not super deep or like Oscar worthy or whatever. I mean, they're really fun to watch, and they get critically lampooned, and then like 90% of people are like, yeah, that was super fun. And I'm more of the one on the right, and been like, like I don't need V for Vendetta for every movie. Like it doesn't need to blow my mind
yeah.
every time. I just need to get away and have fun.
Are either of you
Well, and
familiar
see,
with Cinema Score?
No.
I've heard of it, but yeah, I don't really like look at it.
It's something I'm trying to use more than Rotten Tomatoes. It tends to skew higher, typically. If we're talking about a range of scores, but it does it like with A plus being the highest, going all the way down to an F, so a typical grade school rating. But they actually send people out to theaters on opening night, and they poll people as they're exiting movies real quick, and then aggregate
Oh,
those
that's
to
cool.
its cinema score. So looking right now, Coco has an A plus. American Assassin is B plus. Bad Mom's Christmas is a B. Blade Runner's a B minus.
B for bad.
Yep. The Snowman
Moms.
is a D. The Lego Ninjago movie is B plus.
Yeah.
Justice League is a B plus. So like I said, it tends to skew high, but it lets you know that audiences, as they exited the movie, felt relatively good or bad about a movie.
And I think as a society, like we're just bad at giving and dealing with bad to like mediocre scores. Like I found this out like on an old website I used to write for with just some friends of mine that we would review games and stuff. And I found it really hard. Like, I mean, this even happens to stupid stuff. Like when I rate a book on Goodreads or something, like I have a hard time giving a book a 2. Like it's either I really hated it when it's a 1 or it's like a 4 or a 5.
Yeah.
And so it's like I feel like there's a lot of really decently good 60, 70, percent movies that we're like, oh, that's 60. That's a D. Like that's terrible. It's like I mean, it's still more positive than not.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's interesting.
That's why it's important to, in addition to or separate from whatever you choose, Rotten Tomatoes, find some reviewers that you tend to like their opinions, or your opinions tend to be close to theirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And follow them and get multiple sources. Don't
Yep.
just follow one person and do what they say. Find a small handful. It's the same thing I do for game reviews. There's like 3 or 4 websites that I look at game reviews for.
Yep.
If I were to believe IGN, my favorite game of the year 2016 was Doom, and they gave it like a 6.5 or something. They gave it a really low score for some reason. But
well, and when it all comes down to it, a review for anything is just a person's opinion, and I feel like a lot of people forget that. So that's why when I see movies that I really enjoy, it's very rare that I'll be like, oh my gosh, where I tell everyone you have to go see this, like you need to see this, because I know like, well, I really liked it. Like Lego Batman is still one of my favorite movies of the year, but I would not recommend that to everybody. Because I know, like, I feel like that movie was made for me. It did a lot of the things that I liked and that I always wanted to see in not only a Lego movie but a Batman movie. But I wouldn't tell my family and stuff like everyone needs to watch this. Like you have to see it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Lady Bird that really is a mystery to me because it's not even a movie that you can watch and go, okay, I could see how everyone could relate to at least something in this movie. There's a lot of people that wouldn't really relate to anything in it. So that's why it really blows my mind that it's, still tracking at 100%. So.
Yeah. It's funny. Do you guys remember the Siskel and Ebert days?
Yep.
Yep.
I was thinking about this while we were talking about like how Rotten Tomatoes has basically become like the Siskel and Ebert of modern movies. Because I remember like there used to be, TV ads where like Siskel and Ebert give it 2 thumbs up. Like,
Yeah.
it's just funny to think that like at least now we have so many more sources that we trust, even though it seems like everybody's latched on to this big one.
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that. I can't think of any other examples like in between Siskel and Ebert and Rotten Tomatoes, where like there was like one source that everyone looked to for like their opinion on a movie.
Well,
Facebook and
it
newspaper.
died slowly because like it became like what, Ebert and Roper or something like that,
Yeah.
and then like it was just Ebert for a while, I think, and then finally it just stopped being a thing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I think it says a lot about our culture that we rely so heavily on reviews nowadays. And I think, in my personal opinion, that the reason is there's so much content for us to consume now
Yeah.
between movies and TV shows and good books and just the internet, Facebook and everything like that,
Yeah.
that I think just we feel like we have to make the best use of our time.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
we look and try to get an opinion or see what other people's opinions on media is before we consume it because we want to make sure it's worth the time investment.
It's true. Yeah, there are more TV shows that are airing just right now that I will probably ever be able to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so many that people are like, oh, you should see this one and this one and this one. And like, I was just scrolling through Netflix the other day, and I was like, holy crap, there's so many Netflix originals that I want to watch, and I'll never see all of them. Like, there's no way. Like, just that one source.
Yeah.
Man, our generation retirement is going to be awesome.
Oh my gosh. It's like, how are you going to pick though? Like, because I even have a list of 100 books that I want to read, and I keep putting things in front of it.
We have all the time in the world.
Yeah,
And then
we need to figure out this whole like no aging thing soon.
All right. Well, that's kind of all the stuff we had for our main meat of the podcast this week. But before we close out, let's get to our listener questions and topics. Take it away, TJ.
So our first one, a friend of mine, Johnny Aprilli, he wants to know our favorite Christmas gift ever. I will go ahead and start. There's a lot. There's definitely a lot of memorable ones for me, but the one I probably remember the most was when I got my Nintendo 64 and Mario 64. Years ago when I had my first job, I worked at a Game Crazy, and so I'd always talk with the other employees about games and stuff, and that was before the internet was really like huge and stuff like that. And a fellow employee of mine, he was like, oh yeah, I remember when the N64 came out, it was in September. And I was like, September? I was like, no. I was like, I got mine for Christmas. Like, there's no way that I went 3 months without having the newest Nintendo console. Like, that can't be right. It came out around Christmas. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, it came out in September. And there was no way for us to really quickly look it up and see. So I remember being so positive that I had it like when it came out. And then when I looked it up and saw it came out in September, it just blew my mind that there was a new Nintendo out with a 3D Mario game, the first ever 3D like huge game like that, revolutionary game, and I didn't have it for 3 months. Like I just couldn't process that. So I remember Nintendo 64s were very hard to find. My parents knew nothing about video games, so if I ever wanted a game, I kind of had to like guide them to it. Like I couldn't just say like, "This is what I want, go find it." They wouldn't know what to do.
I find the Sears catalog and circle it and be like, that one.
Yeah, but with it, and sometimes they could do that, but with stuff that was harder to find, like they weren't going to call stores and stuff and see, and I was doing all the heavy lifting for that. So I called my local KB toy store randomly one day, and they were like, "Yeah, we got N64s in." So that's what my parents decided they would get me for Christmas. It's what I wanted. So I remember driving to the store and getting it. And I remember This is so stupid. I remember driving behind a bus and like a public transit bus, and the number of the bus was 364. And I remember looking at that 64 going, look at that. This is a sign. It was meant to be. I'm supposed to be here right now. This is it. I'm getting my Nintendo 64.
Dude,
And thinking,
dude, I'm not gonna lie. Like I did crap like that too with the Nintendo 64, so I'm not even gonna give you crap for that. So
so I remember
funny.
getting it, and I don't know. I think it was maybe like a few weeks before Christmas, but I remember just having it. And like my mom would still wrap stuff, even though I knew what it was and all that. But I just remember getting it that Christmas day and hooking it up and playing it. And later that night, we had to go to my aunt's house, and I was begging them, like, "Will you please let me take this with?" And they're like, if you take that with, you're not going to talk to any of the family. You're going to be off in another room, like playing the whole time. Like, no, you brought your Super Nintendo before when that came out. We know how that went. You're not taking your Nintendo 64. So, but I just remember being so blown away. I mean, we could talk for hours about Mario 64. We've talked about it in the past, how revolutionary it was. But that gift, like, it really felt like something new and special. And since they were so hard to find, I felt like I was in this like secret club that not everyone could get into. So yeah, I will go with that for my choice.
very good choice.
That's pretty awesome.
Go ahead, Trent.
So mine is actually really similar in that it is also the Nintendo 64.
Are
also
you the kid from that video?
No. Is that the one that like the cat like attacks the jugular of and like just goes to town?
No, that's the one where the kid, he's opening his present and it's a Nintendo 64 and he screams like Nintendo 64 and he's pouncing on it and rubbing it like a cat would. But yeah, the Nintendo 64 kid.
You guys see the Taco Bell commercial where they took those same kids and did a modern commercial with them?
I did.
Yeah.
And years later, that kid tried to auction off, or he put that N64 up on eBay. And I don't think he got nearly as much money as he was expecting.
We have a really
But go on,
weird-
Trent.
we have
Go
a
on.
really
I'm
weird
sorry.
culture. No, you're fine. So I also like. It's funny that you think about it, like I don't remember it being available the entire fall either, because I got mine for Christmas too. And I remember like so as a family growing up, and well, still today I guess, but we always do all of our presents Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a thing that we've always done. And we like I remember like opening it, and then we got Ocarina of Time with it.
Mhm.
And I remember my brother and I were so excited to go play the new Zelda game that we went and hooked it up as soon as we were done with presents and everything. And we had to have been playing until like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And like we would take turns. Like one of us would like I think we got like we'd gotten the guidebook from Nintendo Power or something. And like one of us would have the guidebook open, and be like, "Oh, this is how you do this," and like you should look out for this. And the other person, and we like point up, like, "Oh, I think that thing there like is a puzzle thing," like, and like it was so much fun. Like it's one of the best gaming memories with my brother that I have. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Very nice. I'm just kind of
Are you gonna say Nintendo 64?
kind of
It was so good.
more specifically just Ocarina of Time. I had a Nintendo 64, but Ocarina of Time I was gonna say. So just to kind of give you a little bit of 64 history for me, I guess. I didn't get one for Christmas. My parents didn't like to buy me things that were that expensive. And so like I had been saving up for a Super Nintendo for literal years as a kid, but by the time I had enough money to buy a Super Nintendo, the Nintendo 64 was out, and so I just continued saving for a Nintendo 64. I got one like in 1997, the year afterwards, out of a classified ad in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're selling it for 170. I think they're selling it for 170 with a couple games, and I think it sold for $200 brand new with no games at the time. And so I was like, ah! So that's how I got my 64. But I didn't have the internet either for the longest time, and I remember seeing Zelda in an old EGM magazine, like the very first screenshots. So I remember like going to the store and like buying that issue so I could see the screenshots and stuff like that.
Wait, really quick. Are you sure it was EGM?
No, it was a non-Nintendo magazine.
Was it Tips and Tricks?
Maybe?
Does that ring a bell? Did it have
Maybe.
Ocarina of Time on the cover?
I don't remember. I remember it had like a Resident Evil thing in there too, Resident Evil 2 section.
Well, because the reason I bring that up is because there was an issue of Tips and Tricks, and I think that was like the first like official screenshots, like not an early build. It was the final build of the game, the screenshots. And I remember it was like either like a one page or maybe even half a page, like an article. I remember carrying that magazine with me everywhere, even to school.
Ditto.
And
I took it to school, and
I must have read that article at least 100 times.
yeah, ditto. So it might have been
Because I
by
was so
Tips and
excited.
Trick. I'll have to Google it afterwards. It was. I just remember it was a non-Nintendo Power because, yeah, that's all I remembered. But somehow like I got unaware of Ocarina of Time, I guess, and so like I didn't know any news. I didn't have any subscription to any magazines. I'd kind of literally just like go to a Blockbuster, and see what they had available. At one point, like my mom just like got like a Sunday paper, and I was kind of looking through the ads for like Best Buy and it just like coming this Tuesday, Ocarina of Time, and I was like, "Wah!" Like I had no idea it was coming at all, and just saw like, oh, it's coming out like 2 days from now. So
I really need one of our listeners to make a supercut of all of Ryan's reaction noises and put them all together for me
someday,
and make it my ringtone.
There you go. And so I immediately was like, I need this, I need this, I need this, and my parents were like, I don't know, you're getting kind of old for video games.
Oh,
So they totally like sold that they were not getting me this game, so to speak. And so like I had no money, and Ocarina of Time was $80 at launch.
wow.
And so yeah, I started like saving up for it, not expecting to get it, and then I did. Like it was the very last present. They didn't have it under the tree. I'd finished my presents, and then they brought oh, we have one more for Ryan. And then I recognized like the N64 sized box, and I was like, no. And then like
that's
then
great.
I opened it and had it. But then they gave me the stipulation at the end. They're like, "This is the last video game we're ever buying you. you're getting too old for video games."
Oh, how little they knew.
Yeah. So
So basically, if this podcast had a Rotten Tomatoes score, the N64 would be considered the best Christmas gift of all time at 100%.
it's very true.
Pretty much.
So maybe next time we'll do our favorite non-video game Christmas gifts. But no, thank you, Johnny, for
one. Basically,
I know. Well, thank you, Johnny, for submitting that question. As you can see, we had a lot of fun with that one. Next question. Another friend of mine, Amanda Gibson, she wants to know what our favorite holiday movie to watch is.
I'll go first for this one. I've already watched. You can go first if you really want.
No, go ahead.
It's one of my all-time favorite movies ever, and it's something I try to watch every holiday season. But definitely Home Alone, and I'm going to add on its sequel as an expansion pass you have to watch with the first one.
I want to say it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, that sounds about right. 4 or 5 years ago, I and my wife and her family, we watched both Home Alones back to back. Just when like everyone was in town for Christmas and stuff. That was like one of the most fun times I think I've ever had, like during the holiday season. We were all so invested in it because like nowadays it's so hard to get people together to really like sit down and everyone like really watch a movie without everyone being on their phones and stuff. But when we watched that, we were all just laughing and making jokes about the movie and, memories we had about it and stuff. And those movies are so good.
Yeah, my friend had it on during a Friendsgiving that he had. He put on both 1 and 2, and so people were in the kitchen, kind of eating food, some people in the living room, kind of watching the movie and chatting. But like Maggie was face palming because I was quoting the movie constantly with them, like saying exact lines at the exact moments, and just not like the famous lines, but just like the smallest, most random things. So,
yeah,
I love that movie so much. So
that's awesome.
Well, that's good. What about you, Trent?
So, I have 2. One is kind of controversial, and then the other one is just so classic that it's almost, to me, goes without saying. But I recently had a coworker who'd never even heard of it, and I was appalled. So I have to share it. So we'll go with that one first, and it's White Christmas. It's a family tradition.
I think
we watch it every year.
Yes. What is it about?
You guys haven't seen it?
Besides Christmas. I'm assuming there's snow in it too. But no, I
It's
don't
ringing
know.
a bell. I
about
don't know what
snow.
it is. So off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, you've all heard the song before. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Yeah.
Wait,
This
is
is the
this Bing
music.
Crosby?
Yeah, this is the musical that it comes
Oh,
from.
okay.
So it's Bing Crosby and one of his famous like other like singer comedian guys. I forget his name. But they are two friend war veterans who like put on shows together, and they meet these two girls who are showmen also. And so the four of them put on this big show together and go on tour, and then they run into their old like general or commander guy, and he owns an inn, and the inn is struggling, and so they put on all these shows to like attract all these people to come, and they're like all big like Christmas shows with musical numbers and all this stuff. And then so it's basically like them like helping out their old commander guy, and how like they used to sing about Christmas like during World War II and stuff. It's a really good movie. You should watch it.
I just looked it up on IMDb, and I've never even heard of it before.
I have heard of it, and I'm sure I've seen parts of it. So
Maybe
Trent, does that mean in Home Alone when Kevin is shaving, that scene really means a lot to you because he's singing White Christmas?
I mean, it does like mean a lot to me, but I mean, it's a really good movie, and I've watched it almost every year since I was a kid. It's one of my mom's favorite movies.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's cool when like families have like a specific movie that is always a tradition to watch and stuff.
Yeah, and then the other one I'm going to mention, my brother and I watch almost every year. If he's able to be around because he's in the military now. And I saw a meme about it the other day, and it's like, to me, it's not Christmas until I see Hans Gruber falling from Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah.
And so Die Hard is a Christmas movie for me.
Last year, my brother was having a Christmas movie kind of just marathon where he wanted to watch a ton of Christmas movies, and he'd never seen Die Hard. I'm like, well, you got to see Die Hard. It's like the best Christmas movie ever. And he's like, really? It's a Christmas movie? I'm like, yeah, dude, totally. And like, maybe I invite him over, we watch it with him, and he's like, this isn't a Christmas movie. I'm like, yes, it is.
That's awesome. Yes.
Yep.
It is a Christmas movie, and it's amazing.
He did not appreciate my sharing of Die Hard with him.
Oh,
he thought it was a good movie, but he was really in a Christmassy mood, and I guess that wasn't what he wanted at that particular time.
Tell him to get the Hallmark Channel and watch all of
there
those.
You go. watch the Grumpy Cat movie.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a movie coming out. It's called Santa Stole Our Dog. I saw someone on Twitter like share the cover of it. I think it's like one of those like Hallmark Channel style movies. So I'm like, oh, that's an interesting title.
There you go.
Oh, and really quick, speaking of that scene, when Kevin's shaving or pretending to shave, and he puts that aftershave on, he screams because it burns. Aftershave only burns when you put it on your stubble, and he didn't actually shave. So Kevin's a liar, and I don't think anything in Home Alone really happened. And
it's not even so much the stubble; it's the the little tiny holes that you've torn open, like from the shaving itself.
Oh yeah. There you go. So yeah, I think Kevin made the whole thing up.
I think so too.
And I think he killed that old man across the street, and then made up the story about the burglars so people would look the other way.
Oh man! So that's actually the reason that I actually like Home Alone 2 better is that the guy from Home Alone 1 terrifies me, like even a little bit today.
Really?
Like he's always so creepy looking, and like
he always like stares him down too.
Like, I'm gonna save you, and I'm like, oh, don't, like, just let him go.
Like I was watching it the other day, like especially like in like the little convenience store where he buys a toothbrush, he like puts his hand on the counter and then he just like
bloody hand.
He like just stares at Kevin for like 45 straight seconds, saying nothing as Kevin slowly backs out of the store with the toothbrush.
Although the older I get, the more I appreciate just like how bored that guy must have been, like, living in that time alone, like with no internet. And just like he's probably just like, I'm gonna scare the crap out of this kid.
Well, later in the movie, he's like, you could say hello when you see me. You don't have to be afraid. It's like, why don't you say hello?
Yeah. Kevin should be like, you could say it too.
Well, you gotta not
bloody-handed old man.
Yeah, you gotta come across as not a creepy old man. You can't say hello to kids. You just gotta stare at them.
Yeah. Gosh.
Anyway, do we get TJs?
No, not yet. But another really quick thing about Home Alone. Do you ever notice how Home Alone 2 is basically the exact same plot?
It is a remake.
It really
They paid a microtransaction, got a new skin, and then released the same movie.
It's not exactly the same movie.
It's not.
Well,
But
no,
I
it's
still
very
absolutely
close.
love it. But
Like the
I love it too.
the house at the end is obviously almost exactly the same, but like the Tim Curry like hotel bits are amazing.
Well, but then like, what about like the creepy bird lady? She's basically the new creepy old man.
Yeah,
you
but
gotta do
she's
better
so
than
much
that.
but she's so much less crazy and creepy than the old man was.
I believe you, but my Tommy gun don't.
Yeah, even that scene is the same. He uses the same movie or like the sequel to that movie to trick those guys.
But it's so funny.
You need to watch them back to back. Oh no, hey, don't get me wrong. I love both. I agree with
They're
Ryan. You
they're
don't
both
just say Home
wonderful
Alone.
movies.
You say Home Alone 1 and 2. That is one super movie.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
and I'm definitely not saying that it's like a totally original sequel idea by any means. But
well, there's two things that make me very angry in Home Alone 2. Number one, that Duncan, he owns that toy store.
Yeah.
He gives Kevin the 2 turtle doves off of that tree when he owns a toy store. Like that's his nice gift to this
Right?
boy for donating to the sick children.
He only donated like $20 or something.
Yeah, well, $20 should get him a lot more than 2 turtle doves. Like he's giving 2 turtle doves to a little boy in a toy store.
Yep.
That's
Shooting
the worst
out, like,
gift ever.
like a
Even
train
so,
set.
I wouldn't have thought that toy store was cool as a kid. Like it was too hipster. Like give me
Yeah.
like some super soakers and RC cars and stuff.
What?
That was all like, like handmade dolls and stuff.
Oh, I thought it was super cool. I love that train set that goes around the store.
And number 2, Kevin's family is obviously very wealthy. They don't do anything for that bird woman at the end. Like this bird woman saved Kevin's life. She's living on the streets, and Kevin gives her half of his free gift that he got from Duncan.
Man, what a jerk.
Here you go. Good luck finding something to eat tonight and for the rest of your life. No, they should have done a lot more. So hopefully Kevin did the right thing and was like, yeah, there's this creepy bird lady, but she's really not creepy and she saved my life. We should probably go like buy her some groceries.
It's even worse when you
or
realize that
something.
like Duncan delivered like probably thousands of dollars worth of toys to their hotel room.
Oh
For an
yeah.
already super rich family.
Oh my gosh. I had never
Oh,
thought about this stuff. Stop ruining my childhood and making me feel bad.
Yeah, it's still a wonderful movie.
Everything turns
but
out perfectly.
no, but we don't know what's in those boxes. Those could have been all boxes of turtle doves for all we know. I just imagine Duncan going into the back room of the toy store and there's just a surplus of these turtle dove ornaments that no one has bought and he has to get rid of.
That's for breaking my window, jerk. Look what you did, you little jerk.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
Well, we could probably do a whole episode about Home Alone.
Next week,
maybe,
Home Alone spoiler cast.
maybe one day. But no, really quick, I'll go my favorite holiday movie to watch. I need to mention it. Jingle All the Way. I love Jingle All the Way so much.
Good choice.
Is that the
I
Arnold
remember
Schwarzenegger one?
that's one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he needs to get a Turbo Man for his
And
kid.
little Anakin Skywalker, Jake Lloyd.
That's right. That's right. Because when you
Oh,
watched
wow.
that movie when it came out, you said, "Man, it's so cool that like this kid is obviously Darth Vader." Like it's like no one else could play a better young Darth Vader than the little boy in this movie. But no, that movie, I remember seeing that as a kid. Like I didn't see it in theaters. I'm like, that looks horrible. I was starting to get a little older to where I thought, stupid kid movies look like stupid kid movies. I remember being at my aunt's house. It was on TV, and I watched it. And I remember watching it the whole time, going like, "Huh, this is so stupid." But I watched the whole thing. Like I could have easily gotten up and went and played with toys, but I sat there and watched it. And I've just really grown to appreciate that movie, and it's become absolutely one of my holiday favorites.
Good
I love
choice. All good
Really
choices.
funny.
And there's a lot of humor in there that would go way over kids' heads, especially from Sinbad. So, and there's a scene where Sinbad, I'm pretty sure he kills a ton of cops in an explosion. So,
What a funny story, Mark.
so there you go.
All right. Well, good choices, everyone. Let's go ahead and take this opportunity to wrap up. Trent, would you like to take us out?
I thought we had one more question.
Okay.
No, we're gonna save that for later because we are running a bit long, and that would be a good topic for closer to the end of the year.
Fine. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Brief Nerdity podcast. As always, we'd love to hear from our listeners for topics that you think we should talk about, round robin ideas, if you disagree with us on a certain point or really agree with us, whatever. So go to briefnerdity.com, subscribe to the podcast, check us out on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all those good social media places. And we
Social
will...
media.
I think this is episode 52, right? So we've done a full year.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. So thanks for
Happy birthday!
thanks for joining us for a full year of podcasts, and here's to another year to come. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.